Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime episode review. This one's going to be for episode 52, which is called Sasuke's Shadow, and seems to be the kind of last episode before we get into the Boruto movie arc. And yeah, I thought it was a pretty good episode. I have a few little problems, mainly just with, I suppose primarily with Konohamaru's sort of like power level and where they seem to be like not really leaning into him being as like powerful as I think most of the fans expect him to be. We'll get into that in a minute, but overall I thought it got Boruto to a somewhat interesting place, and that it's definitely the last couple of episodes have started to present the start of all of the kind of little things that are going on with him in the movie. I still feel it's going to be slightly different to what we've had so far with the manga and also the movie, just because Boruto's so much more developed character, and like they have to bring that stuff in as well as the stuff that's already we know is used in the movie to kind of create his arc for the movie. In terms of, I suppose, lore, world building stuff, I thought they did that quite well with like introducing Sasuke, because obviously he comes into play primarily through the movie, and also giving us some more information about the Otsutsukis, about like, oh, okay, here's obviously the setup for like Momoshiki arriving, and the expectation from those in like the Leaf Village and pretty much around the ninja world that something's happening here. The fact that we're discovering all this stuff that Kaguya had sort of set up, these like other armies that are sort of being activated now, it's like she was preparing for something that was going to come and attack her. What are we expecting here? And that our characters haven't figured it out yet, but we obviously know exactly what's taking place here. And then I liked how their mission led them to find one kind of Otsutsuki ruin, but Sasuke sort of saved them because he just kind of like seemingly had been there just prior, or you know, quickly popped in and popped out without kind of saying hello to anyone. So a lot of stuff happened in this episode overall, but I think the big takeaway here is just kind of, okay, Konohamaru is still powerful, and he made the speech of like, you know, I am stronger than the three of you, but it also kind of feels like if the three of them didn't come with him, that could he have even taken down that one thing on its own? And maybe it's just me and the first initial fight that continued on from last episode. It's just feeling like, okay, nothing's going to happen here because none of them are using anything of note in this fight. No one's using any jutsu, they're just throwing kunai at it and nothing's happening. And even like the finishing blow to kind of set up the rest of the episode is just Konohamaru like, you know, slicing the Zetsu's stomach with his kunai. He doesn't use any jutsu. So later on, I think part of the problem is just that like he uses the Rasengan and is just like saving the best for last, and he's just like, wait, Is the Rasengan really your best attack? I think we know already that he can use the giant Rasengan. I think we more or less know he can do that. So he has like more powerful moves. It's just kind of like the way they're presenting it is just that like, oh, we would have been goners if we walked in there, and it's just like, I think us as the audience, we sort of expect that like, no, we sort of feel that Konohamaru, you should be able to get them out of that situation. Like, you are a Jonin now, or are you just saying that he's not a particularly powerful Jonin? Because he uses a pretty good fireball jutsu here, and then the Rasengan, and that's more or less everything that he uses. I think I'm sort of waiting to see, like, does he more go down the path of using more of Naruto's moves, or is he going to show us that he has actually more like fire style jutsus that he hasn't shown us before? Because it just feels like he's a little ineffective, that his students in a way have like better like skill potentials than he has, and that they have the firepower basically to finish fights, whereas he doesn't as such. The one thing with the Rasengan it did sort of get across is that Boruto clearly sees that it's a very powerful jutsu, and so it sort of sets up that one of the things where he like it kind of proving to him why the Rasengan is a good jutsu to learn, which is obviously like a key part of like, you know, the movie arc is like actually Boruto learning that technique, and you know, beginning his training with Sasuke. So it's it's an interesting one with Konohamaru, because the impression I get from most of the fan base is that they're waiting for him to get his like Kakashi moment, basically, because that's the position that Konohamaru's in with our main cast, is that he is the Kakashi equivalent to our main team of Genin in this show. Kakashi constantly got chances to show just how powerful he was, how skilled he was. Konohamaru isn't necessarily getting that. He's being presented like, oh, like he's a Jonin and stuff like that, but in the actual fights, he's not getting that chance really to show outside of just Rasengan. So I want to see him get a little bit more of a focus at some stage. Even in the manga right now, I think this is why it's sort of, I think, coming to a head right now, of just like the manga had Konohamaru be sort of underpowered. The anime right now is sort of showing him as being a little underpowered. When is he going to get his big moment? Or is it just the fans over-exaggerating how strong he is? I think the expectation would be that because he's Naruto's student, he should be more kind of powerful than he actually seems right now. He should be sort of like one of the best of the kind of Jonin in a way. But I suppose at the same time, Jonin is the rank of most of like the Naruto characters. Like, you know, that would be like Kiba, Sakura, so on. They're all like basically Jonin level, and Konohamaru was actually a generation behind them. So like, unless they're going to say that like he's still sort of training himself because he's still fairly young, and most of the teams right now are actually like under the kind of tutelage of relatively young Genin, where it was more experienced in the original Naruto, then maybe that sort of helps to explain it. But at that point, I'm kind of like, okay, so is someone going to teach Konohamaru some sort of a kind of better move to make him more powerful? Because it feels like Boruto almost already should sort of in a way outclass Konohamaru just on how Konohamaru's been presented. But they very clearly showed in this episode as like a plot point that Boruto doesn't have the power level to be able to like fight this Zetsu kind of monster, whereas Konohamaru does. It worked because it was this kind of moment of like Konohamaru trusted them on this mission to be like, don't get over reckless, don't overestimate your power. Boruto saw an opening, took it, but it didn't do anything. So he sort of went against orders thinking he had the power, but he didn't, and it kind of was this big moment of realizing that he's not as strong as he thinks he is, even though he is probably like the best of the current class of Genin. And the fact that like he only got out of the first fight, I suppose, by using the kind of ninja technology that was given to him by Katasuke, it's sort of setting up that as he's getting into this kind of situation where the others are, I suppose, reaching his level, and he's maybe struggling to get stronger than he currently is, that he's maybe going to resort to using ninja technology a little bit more, or cheating to get to the level he needs to be at. And I suppose that is a setup for the movie, and it's relatively well done. It's one of those ones where, like, maybe you wish they'd done, like, set it up a little bit further in advance rather than pretty much just the last 2 episodes. But you can sort of see the kind of presentation of it, but also the potential, because when they get to the end of the episode and they find the Amaterasu, and it's like, okay, we would have been wrecked here because there's like 12 of them, and we barely took out one. Sasuke took these all out on his own, and they kind of revealed to Boruto for basically the first time, I suppose, the skill level that Sasuke is at, of like, he is the only one that, you know, Naruto considers to be a rival of basically equal skill level to him. And that really impresses Boruto because he has this sort of almost rivalry with his father about this sort of stuff. So that is going to set up, of course, in the movie, the fact that he respects that because he kind of wants to become better than his father. But I suppose the issue here is that Boruto is almost like undervaluing Naruto's power level, because as we'll sort of see, Boruto knows Naruto's powerful, but I don't think he knows the full extent as such. Like, this episode, they talk about how a lot of the kind of more veteran characters at this point fought in the Ninja War and defeated Kaguya. And I think at this point, most of them are kind of unable to comprehend the power level that they had to be at to actually do that, and just how strong the likes of like Sakura, Sasuke, and Naruto actually are. And that's what I suppose this arc is really going to show, where the level of villains, enemies they're facing is going to go from being just a little bit maybe above theirs to just being like crazy, and this is the like extent of power you can get to, and show that okay, you may be a prodigy, but you still have to do the hard work to actually get to that point. And that's the one thing where I think the Boruto anime has been fairly good at, is that as far as we're aware, Boruto hasn't really needed to do a whole lot of training to be as good as he is. It primarily just comes to him, which has been something that has been brought up a couple of times by characters. So in that sense, it's good, and it sets up the idea that him learning, I suppose, the value of hard work, like Naruto, is actually going to propel him to the next level, to where, you know, he will be tuning level, he will be above tuning level, and the full extent of his potential comes out, because I suppose that's how Sasuke sort of developed as well, that he was sort of the prodigy. He still did work, but like he realized he had to train just as much as Naruto to kind of stay with Naruto and on his growth. So I suppose we're going to see something like that as we go forward. But yeah, I think that's most of the episode. We got the kind of, I suppose, after credit scene in a way, further setting up, I think, what is the kind of opening scene of the movie, which is the Sasuke fight with Kinshiki, I think it is, or I keep forgetting the name of the other Otsutsuki guy, but setting up Sasuke's fight, which, like, I suppose is the big setup moment for the series overall. The preview shows us that next episode is going to be basically everyone getting signed up for the tuning exams and the start of that. So I think already we're going to be getting a ton of like extra scenes that we didn't get before. Just even seeing Denki in the kind of movie arc is kind of an interesting one. So it looks like they are going full on in terms of just this being a much more heavily expanded out version of the movie arc, with, I assume we'll get to see the majority of the fights, and they'll treat it in the same way that they did in like original Naruto, where they're not really going to skip over anything or rush through it like the movie perhaps did. We're going to get to see the progress of everyone throughout this, with still the core focus of, like, it's called Himawari's birthday next episode, so we're going to see that moment and how that really goes forward, because from the last episode, that was the thing they really set up, that if Naruto messes up with Himawari's birthday, it's gonna like be this kind of you know, really devastating thing of like in terms of, I suppose, Boruto's trust of his father, and really set that arc going for the movie. But yeah, that's been the review. Thanks for watching, and bye.